Oh my God, we are back with yet another edition of Grindhouse Chic. As always, I am Robert Schneider, and I am joined, I hate using the word repetitively, as always, by Matt Armstrong and Brian
I'm
Baldwin.
always here.
And Brian Baldwin is going to be here at some point during the episode. Man, it's been a crazy week for me. A lot of work.
Yeah.
Tried to watch a bunch of movies, but last week I watched Family Portrait, I can't remember Douglas Beck or Douglas Buck film, and yesterday I watched The Theater Bazaar. Man, I really gotta really be selective of the stuff I order from Severin.
Not good.
There were a couple of good segments in the anthology, but it is not a good movie. It is not a good movie. Though Udo Kier is in he's the star of the framing sequence, and I actually met him.
Hmm.
I want to say in 2007 or 2008. I was traveling for work. We were filming some commercials. It was before Watchmen came out because
Hmm.
the woman they just announced the casting of it, and the woman who played who got the part of Night Owl, Night Silk Spectre
Yeah.
was at we were staying in this hotel called the Huntley, and she was there that night, and I walked up to her to congratulate her, and she totally blew me off, and I would have blown me off too, but Udo Kier was there that night, and he was sitting on this chair that looked like a throne. And I might have just imagined it being a throne because that's the kind of chair Udo Kier deserves to sit on. And he was just checking out the women.
Hmm.
I did not go up and talk to him because you don't really want to meet your heroes. And I would be devastated by the guy who played Dracula and Dr. Frankenstein in Paul Morrissey's, or I should say Andy Warhol's Blood for
Yeah.
Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula and Flesh for Frankenstein. But no, I was just in awe. I was just in awe of him.
I feel like I always see him playing like the weirdest roles in movies. Like I'll just pop something random on and it's just him playing like some some like weird shop owner just out of nowhere or something.
I think there was a point in cinema where they're like, we could get Klaus Kinski, but he would probably be too temperamental, or we can get Udo Kier.
Yeah.
He seems like the safer choice.
I just looked him up on Letterboxd. 222 film credits.
Yeah, well, Tom Byron and Peter North have more than that.
Yeah.
Boom or bang.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I was going to ask you. You kind of got on my case this week for not ordering Lost Highway from the Criterion flash sale.
I wasn't on your case. I was just wanted you to get the best deal, you know?
How much did you end up paying for it?
I think it was 24.99.
Hold on. Let me see what I paid for it. I don't think I paid that much more.
You did Amazon, right?
Yeah. Hold on. I was gonna do 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 do.
Doo-doo-doo.
I paid. Okay, I paid $34.99 for it. I could have saved $10,
I
but I would
know.
have had to pay for shipping.
Uh, yeah, I mean, that's all you bought then, yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think the threshold's like 75, I think, for free shipping.
Yeah, I had to do my taxes because I got an extension on them, and I was really upset because the government or the IRS got rid of being able to write off one's move.
Oh.
I instead of getting money back, I owed money.
Uh, yeah, this was like this past year was the first year I ever owed money. It was pretty sad.
Yeah, I was worried that it would have really gone into it really would have gone into my next year's subscription for Vinegar Syndrome, but thankfully it was only like $200, but it hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt having to pay for that.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what do you think about the move to January? I mean, does it make any difference to you or?
It yes and no. I'll be able to keep the money for a little bit longer, but I'm also worried that it's going to be a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, if it's over $1,200, I don't know if I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of happy about it just because my birthday is in December. So everyone always starts bugging my wife for gift ideas. So I just told her if anyone asks, I just want Vinegar Syndrome gift cards. Try and cut this cost down a little.
But it also means I'm not going to be spending much on Black Friday.
Yeah, true.
I mean, the partner label stuff will be announced beforehand, so I'll probably buy that in early November. And then it's partner label month in December, and I'll probably take a hiatus except for 2 or 3 labels.
Yeah.
But I really, it's been weird. Like, there's a lot of stuff I want, but then if I don't buy it on day one, I just don't seem to care about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I've been kind of getting lately too. I've stopped myself a couple times. And it doesn't hurt that much.
No, it does. Like, I do want the Bruno Mattei stuff that Severin has coming out, but there's no slip covers or these are not limited editions, so I can wait 6 months until when they're on sale.
Hmm.
It's not like it's a day one purchase like the Caligula collection. Man, I regret that.
Was that day one?
I ordered those day one. Because they were movies I always wanted to see, and then I saw them, and I'm like, they're dirtier than the original Caligula, but the writing is piss poor. And there's a lot of
Can't have
fucking.
it all.
And there's a lot of fun. I mean, they're basically pornos.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do like the box it came in. It might be one of Severin's coolest designs.
I remember, I think it was the other Caligula, not that one. Well, maybe it wasn't. Is the one that you got the one that has like actual actors in it, like big time actors?
No, that's the original Caligula.
Okay. I was gonna say the original one, I like rented it. I was probably like 13 or 14 in our local place. Um, and we took it home and watched it, and we were not expecting that. We were like, what did we get?
Well, what you did not get was a historical drama
Yeah.
from the makers of Penthouse magazine.
Yeah. But it wasn't behind the saloon doors or anything. It was just right there in the regular old shop.
Because it wasn't a porno.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Let's talk about Forrest Gump again.
we are talking about poor Gump.
Nice.
No, we're talking about Caligula. But I think if the rumors are true, we will be talking about Caligula at some point next year on this show, as we sit through the 3-disc 4K. And all of us wonder what the fuck, Vinegar Syndrome. Why the fuck would you release this movie?
I've never seen it.
Oh, you're
Wasn't
lucky.
it Severin who just put that out?
No, they released Caligula Exploitation.
Oh, okay. I don't really know anything about them. So
Yeah. Caligula stars Malcolm McDowell. The Severin version stars people who are not Malcolm McDowell.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So, Brian, you watch anything good this week?
I actually just got through with one. We watched. Well, I should preface this by saying, just for conversation's sake, we went last night, watched a special screening of The Room with Greg Sestero in attendance. very weird, kind of awkward. He was very California. I've never been to California, but it was just like, yeah, yeah. I was like, okay. I mean, I think that's what people from California are. Anyway, so when I got up to his table, which I thought this was pretty funny too. So we checked in the theater, and the guy worded it so weird on my opinion. He's like, Greg and concessions are in the back. I was like, he's a fucking novelty item. Just prop him up in a corner. But he had items for sale, like the script for The Room, his book Disaster Artist. He also had his films Best Friends, and I think he did have the Disaster Artist for sale as well, like the film and the book. But anyway, there was one sitting there, and I was like, "What is this, Greg?" And he's like, "That's my new horror movie." I'm like, "Fucking sold." So it was called oh god. Mystery Valley.
Ooh. It sounds like a preteen book series.
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh my god, I can't plug a movie and not get the Yes, Miracle Valley. Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Miracle Valley. Okay.
No, that sounds like either a mayonnaise or a ranch dressing. or a preteen book series. Mystery Valley meets Sweet Valley High.
There we go. No, I know that was a long way to get to it, but we as an audience generally don't attach any much positive remarks regarding Greg Sestero's work, right? I mean, except I have heard the book Disaster Artist is fantastic.
The book is phenomenal. It's
nice,
better than the movie, and I really like the movie, but the book
Mm-hmm.
The book adds a little bit more depth to Tommy. And
yeah, he was discussing that a little bit.
It has thoughts about where Tommy's money came from.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I can recommend this movie. I mean, of course, it's an indie project, but it's done really well. The story's super engaging. It's there's a tagline on the back that definitely I think sums it up the best, which is "Once upon a time in Hollywood meets Hills Have Eyes," and I think that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, honestly, I was blown away. I purchased this thinking like, something atrocious but fun, and no, sideswiped me. I was like, all right, Greg, I see you, buddy. And it's a fun horror movie. He's not afraid to bring in some gore and some cool, just kind of zany shit into it. It was fun, and I highly recommend it.
So, I will hopefully it'll be playing on Shudder at some point, because maybe then I'll watch it. But I watched a few good films this week. I watched from Severin. I watched Black Candles.
Mm-hmm.
It is sleazy as fuck, but I kind of enjoyed it. Here is my review from Letterboxd. The tagline for this movie reads: "Sex, depravity, and perversion in a movie seemingly made by Satan himself." That's what sold me on it. And this is my review. If that were true, Satan should have sold his soul to make a better movie.
Oh, not good.
But here's the thing. For me, it was a lot of pacing issues with it. It was from the same director who did Vampires. It's very Euro trashy. I kind of wish we got a track in the original language and not the dub version. I would have much rather had subtitles with it, because some of the acting was just so fucking bad. But I mean, it was a fun watch. What else did I watch that I enjoyed? I did watch Dressed to Kill. I've seen it before. It is not a horror movie. It should not be classified as a horror movie. There are some horror elements to it, but it is not a horror movie. I've probably seen it like 3 times, and every time I watch it, I notice something different. This time, I realized the son is played by the same actor who played Rodney Dangerfield's son in Back to School. but there's a scene in a mental hospital where you see the great actor Mark Margolis, aka Hector Salamanca from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, just as an extra in a straitjacket being walked away by a nurse.
Okay.
But on Friday night, I watched Hell Night and I watched the Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. And first of all, have you guys seen it?
Dawn of the Dead or
yes.
Hell Night?
Dawn of the Dead.
No.
Brian, is there a reason why you haven't watched the remake? I'm mad. I know you haven't watched it because it's on your to-watch list.
That doesn't mean I haven't watched it.
Brian, is there a reason you haven't watched it?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was kind of cutting out, and I thought you were talking about. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I don't like zombie movies like very much at all.
What? All right. So,
not a zombie guy.
Okay.
Some of them are okay.
So I am in love with the original. The original is one of my favorite movies of all time. And when it came out theatrically, I was appalled that anyone would release it. Then I saw the 40-Year-Old Virgin. And there's a scene in that movie where one of the characters is watching it in there, and I'm like, fuck, that looks good. I just can't see this movie. Then about 3 weeks after that, this comic store I used to shop at in Phoenix called Atomic Comics, they had zombie film night. And the first movie they showed was Fulci Zombie, and it was really cool to see that with a bunch of people. Then they showed Dawn of the Dead. And I was completely and utterly wrong about that film. It was a great horror film. I wish it wasn't called Dawn of the Dead. Much like the remake of Suspiria, which I think is a great, beautiful film. I wish it wasn't called Suspiria.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're going to be talking about remakes in a few minutes, but I think both of those versions have what it takes to make a good remake. They keep the premise of the original, but they tell a somewhat different version of the story. Like in Dawn of the Dead remake, it is not any of the same characters. It is not people taking a helicopter ride from the news station and landing at a mall. Suspiria just is a much deeper, richer version of the Argento, where it tries to build on the mythology he created, but also tell a somewhat different story with a bunch of different characters.
Yes.
So I think those are key elements to what it takes to make a good remake. And we know there's a lot of shitty remakes out there. A lot of shitty ones. But here's a trivia question for you. Has there ever been a remake of a horror film that you thought was better than the original?
I do have one that at a point in time, I thought surpassed the original for me. I have since kind of changed my mind on it. But I do think it's still fair to mention for that question. I really, really enjoy the remake of Last House on the Left.
I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was still too close. It was still too close to the original. It just wasn't as sleazy.
You know, I don't know. I guess that's a hard one to really get into, right? Like, well, what do you find more sleazy? But like the the rape scenes, in the remake were really impactful, I thought. And I actually found it hard for me to get through, which I think says a lot. There's not really much of anything that jars me to that point. I loved how they kind of, and I'll try to keep it as spoiler free as I can in case no one's watched it or someone that's watching has not watched it. But I love like how they got kind of all crazy with like the gore and you know there's an exploding head in a microwave if I remember correctly and all this really fun stuff towards the end and um, yeah, I thought it was really good. Again, I've kind of changed my mind. When I first watched it, I definitely thought like, man, I think that's actually better than the original. But I guess it depends on the day. I might go back and forth on it.
What about you, Matt?
I guess the first one that kind of comes to mind, and I think we talked about this, or I talked about this movie like a week or two ago, when we were talking about um like the sequel being better.
Now the sequel, the remake.
Right. But I talked about it back then, but I think I liked the Evil Dead remake more than the original Evil Dead.
You're fired. You are fucking fired from this show.
Well, I said I liked the Evil Dead 2 better than the original Evil Dead because I don't know. I need to revisit it, but I feel like I remember the original Evil Dead just being kind of like meh.
Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are one movie. Even though the story of Evil Dead is retold in 2 minutes in Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, you know, I don't know. I that's actually a good call, Matt. I'm like I think I'm more with Robert where the original is just you know holds a really special place in my heart. But I was really fucking impressed with that remake. I thought they killed it. I know a lot of people wanted, you know, I think more of like the silliness, you know, that we got from the original.
But you know, we got that in 3 seasons of Ash versus the Evil Dead.
I've never watched that. I need to watch that. But yeah, no, that's a good call. I really enjoyed the remake of Evil Dead, and I think it just came out on 4K, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Nice.
All right. So my pick is going to be controversial because I think the original is a phenomenal movie. My pick is The Bride, which is a remake of Bride of Frankenstein, directed by Frank Rodham and starring Sting and Jennifer Beals.
Sting.
I just think it's a much more emotional story than the original.
When did this come out?
1985, and it needs a good Blu-ray or 4K. And guess who has it on their want to watch list?
Yeah, I just searched it and saw that.
So that would have been that's early. That's like very young Beal.
Yeah, it's post Flashdance Beal.
Okay.
I can't remember who plays the monster. But it has like a great cast. It has Sting as Dr. Frankenstein, Jennifer Beal as Evie the Bride, Clancy Brown as Victor. Just a really Alexi Sale. Oh God, I forgot he was in it. He was a great comedian who was on the cast of The Young Ones. No, it was just a really good movie, and I absolutely, utterly love it. And hopefully someone, Severin or Criterion, will release it. But
let's check it out.
So before we discuss our movie of the week, Friday the 13th, I put a challenge to everyone to take one film and talk about how they would remake it. Brian, I'm going to start with you because I know you have something good.
Oh God, don't give me that intro because I'll be completely honest. I forgot about it until last night, and the first thing that came to mind was something that I have just thought that for many years that I would like to see. So that's all I'm going to bring to the table.
All right, what is it?
Okay, so Titanic, but the boat doesn't sink. Okay, and here's what happens. So there's an angry chef aboard the vessel. Okay, and he decides to poison its crew and its passengers. Right. So then he gets on this loudspeaker. He's like, you know, the boat's sinking, and they're just fucking throwing themselves off this boat. Right. That's it.
That tells me you did not do your homework.
I didn't. I know. But I have always wanted to see that movie. So unfortunately, it's the only one I could bring to the table. I'm sorry.
No.
Are you talking
You
about
gotta
Under
admit,
Siege?
that's interesting.
You mean Under
right?
Siege?
Damn it.
You mean
Back to the drawing board.
All right. That film is not greenlit. Matt, what about you?
This was kind of hard for me, but I went with this movie that I remember watching over and over again when I was a kid, and it's a Tom Holland directed classic. What's your guess for Tom Holland directed classic?
Just say it.
It is 1996 Thinner.
You would remake a Stephen King one.
Yes. For a couple of reasons. One thing that I always wanted more in this, and I don't know if this was made for TV or if it was in the theaters or not. I can't remember.
I think it was made for TV.
But one thing that I would do is I always wanted it to be more of like a body, like more of a body horror kind of thing where, he puts on this like fat suit in the beginning and then progressively. Have you both seen it?
I have not seen it.
Oh, have you seen it, Brian?
I have. It's been so long though.
Yeah.
I can't remember much about it, man.
And like as it goes on, he gets cursed by I don't know if this is the correct term to even use anymore, but I'm just gonna say it because they say it in the movie. He gets cursed by a gypsy.
I'm out.
And
I take it back. This was theatrically released.
Was it?
Yeah.
So yeah, he like gets cursed and like throughout the whole movie just starts like kind of just getting thinner and thinner, withering away. But it's just like him, in a fat suit in the beginning and then progressively smaller fat suits and then just kind of like some skin hanging off his face at one point. So I kind of always wanted it to be more of a body horror kind of thing, but man, should I like give away the end if you haven't seen it? That's kind of like the big part.
I've read the book. I've read the book.
Okay. So the part that I would change more is about kind of like his journey through trying to get rid of the curse and kind of the outcome of that. I just thought it was kind of like a sellout kind of where, he's putting the curse into this pie and he just needs someone to eat the pie to like get rid of the curse. And then there's like the twist at the end that I'm sure they wanted to have, but I feel like I would have changed it to where it's more about like if you see if this guy is really going to change throughout the course of this. And I think I would have made it where like, if you can put the curse in this pie, and if you eat the pie, man, how did I have this down?
Hold on. How much of this would you alter from the original story that Stephen King wrote?
I would alter. I mean, I think the way that I would redo it would be quite a bit. Because the whole movie, it's just kind of like, he seems like he's like a dirty lawyer. He's got ties with like the mob. And at the end, he like tries to convince the people that, it was just an accident. I'm a good person. And they say, okay, I believe you. Let's put the curse in a pie, but you have to give the pie to someone to eat. And he gives it to his wife, who he finds out was having an affair with him. And to me, that doesn't really show like that you changed. You're still like, this dirty guy. So I would have changed kind of like the whole arc of his character, I think.
How faithful was the book to the movie to the book?
No idea.
Okay. See, for me, I think adapting Stephen King is hard. Mm-hmm. And there have only been a few successful adaptations of it. With Stand By Me and Shawshank Redemption being the two best. Which is funny because neither one is one of his horror novels. Or novellas. I think both adaptations of Stand are great. And I really haven't seen much of anything else because I think adaptations are so hard because you are going to disappoint a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, if you're going to go with, Kubrick's The Shining, that's a fucking phenomenal movie. Although Stephen King fucking hated it. So
I'm not a fan of it either.
good lord.
Is they gonna show that furry stuff?
I think my problem with it is Jack Nicholson overacts, and that was a problem of Jack Nicholson in the 70s and 80s and early 90s.
Whew. Okay, I think this is the first time I've ever heard someone say any negative about it. No, it's okay. Teach their own. I mean,
and here's the thing: I really want to like it. I just don't. The Steven Weber made for TV version, while I know Stephen King like that, I thought that was pretty vanilla.
I thought The Shining was like a good movie. I feel like it was kind of boring.
Oh my fucking god!
That's how I feel about a lot of Kubrick. Kubrick films. Walk, 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 something happens. Walk, 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 something happens.
Two in one day.
Yeah. All right. So
but you don't even like zombies, Brian, so I think we're even.
Now you did do the homework, Brian. Titanic where the boat doesn't sink. Yeah, hey man, that's called Every Other Cruise. All right. Mine's going to be a controversial choice. We are going to take Rob Zombie's Halloween and remake it as Fred Durst's Halloween. No, that was...
I'm interested.
That was a joke. He did it all for the candy. No.
Definitely watch that movie.
I would remake Fade to Black.
Interesting.
I almost chose this. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
So I really thought long and hard about when this movie took place. I kind of wanted it to take place today, but then it would just be an incel drama. And then I thought, all right, you know what? I want this movie to take place in the mid-90s, where Eric works at a video store. And the people that he kills are the customers of the store. Everything else is basically the same, where he is living with an abusive aunt/mother. His life is film. But what makes it interesting, he is surrounded by other people who have the same passions he does, but he's just more fucked up than all of them. And then basically the same thing happens. He loses his job. The girl that he falls in love with, who would not be a Marilyn Monroe, it would be Natalie Wood, because she just died about a decade earlier. And what I would have is, it wouldn't be a psychiatrist, it would be a police officer who is a customer of the video store. And he starts noticing that the characters are all killed in ways that people die in films that he has seen. And he would be trying to figure out the pattern.
Are you going to make the police officer like real dirty? Like he's just always renting the movies behind the saloon doors?
In my video store, it was a beaded curtain. You know what? No, I don't know. It wouldn't be. It would probably have been in the mid-90s. It probably would have been a Blockbuster type store.
Yeah, I think that would be. We've talked about that when we watched the movie. It's like perfect for a remake. I think that would be a good one.
Yeah, but it would also have to be a little bit. It would also have to be a little bit different, because when Fade to Black came out, I'm pretty sure VHS existed, it just wasn't the mainstream.
Right.
And I also wouldn't have it take place in Hollywood. I would have it take place in Champaign, Illinois, or someplace like that. Actually, no, I take it back. I would still have it take place in Hollywood, because in a smaller town, it would just be pretty easy to figure out who the killer was.
Yeah.
But one thing,
I don't want to jump to conclusions, guys, but I think it's the weird guy at the video store.
Is that blood on your shirt? No, it's ketchup.
but one thing I do want is, in a way, there were two things about the movie that Fade to Black that kind of bothered me. One was the scene where Eric is hitchhiking, he's picked up by the producer, and I want it to be something where Eric is a big fan of this producer and keeps on sending email or mailing him script synopsises. And one of them does get stolen that way. He's actually never met the guy before. And another thing is, because I now do want it set in Hollywood, I want it to be kind of like Dominic from Dominic's Flicks channel, where here was a guy who was trying to be something but failed. The fact is, Eric is so close to all the studios, but he's so far away. And that just would add a little bit of myriad to the depth of the character.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be good. Who would you have play the lead?
That I don't know. I mean, how old do you think Eric was? Like 20, 21?
Yeah, I would say early 20s.
Yeah.
I am really bad with actors.
Which means you could have somebody 40 years old play him.
No, I'm a big fan of people looking close to the age that they're playing.
Greg Sestero.
Who? No, he's too old.
Greg Sestero. Let's put him in there. Not at that time if we're doing the night. Oh, wait. You want it placed in the 90s, not if it was made in the actual 90s. Okay.
Yeah, fuck. I don't know. Who's a good actor? Actually, I know the person who I would have. Just
I can't think of any like.
Oh, what's his name?
Right
that
now.
was. Yeah, not super young, but God, why am I drawing a blank? The guy that's in Barbarian that just came out. Not Justin Long, but the other. Was Pennywise Skarsgård? Yeah.
I think he's too old. I think he's too old.
Too old for your character? Okay.
What about the guy who was in Stranger Things, who was in that Spree movie?
I've never seen Spree. I'm actually thinking Calum Worthy. He's on a show on Hulu right now called Reboot with Johnny Knoxville. And he's pretty funny, but he also has a really weird look to him. What else was he in?
Oh, yeah, he does look familiar.
Paul Dano would be cool.
Too old.
No, he's a little. Well, he doesn't look old though. Paul Dano looks pretty young.
This guy was on American Vandal. No, I mean Paul Dano's in his 30s.
Well, I know, but you know how this works.
Yeah, I do.
You watch movies.
I do. I think it needs to be somebody who feels young. Paul Dano, who was great in the Batman as the Riddler, does have that angsty nature to him. But no, I think it needs to be somebody who you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, Paul Dano definitely does look like he kills some fuckers.
Yeah.
He just has that air about him.
That guy's seen some shit.
What about like Timothy Chalamet?
I think he'd be good. I think he's too big of an actor.
Yeah, this is your movie though. You're gonna sign some talent.
Yeah, I would have to. Yeah, I think he'd be good. I think he's a good actor. I don't think I've seen him in much of anything except that movie that stars the guy we don't talk about anymore because he effectively got canceled. The guy who played the Lone Ranger.
Oh yeah.
The guy who's
Yeah. That was a weird story.
who did some bad things to women.
I don't know anything about this. I think I'll just stay out of it.
he played.
I have no real attachment to the Lone Ranger. So.
he played the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network, and Discovery Plus just did a mini series about him and his family's Army Hammer. That's his name.
Oh,
yeah.
My wife was okay. Yeah, she was telling me about this. Okay.
Weirdly enough, he played one of the sons of Satan in the short-lived but great CW TV show Reaper. And turns out he was the son of Satan. That family did some evil shit. Evil shit. So next week, I think, you know, we should, beside our discussion of whatever movie we talk about, let's talk about each bring in our 3 favorite remakes not named Dawn of the Dead or Suspiria. that would be 2 on my list already.
Okay.
Brian,
and I promise, I digitally pinky promise you guys right now. This is me doing it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
No. That I'll do that, but I will also give some more thought to the movie rewrite. I apologize. Time gets crazy. And I was like, holy shit, I forgot about that when you sent the message. And
Brian, I
am bummed out you guys didn't like my Titanic idea, though, because I thought it was fucking awesome.
No. It was a terrible idea.
It's not terrible.
It might have been the worst idea for a remake since they remade the Poseidon Adventure.
Did you guys know that there is a Titanic 2?
Is it an Asylum movie?
That's a good question. It might be.
Yeah.
When I was working at Blockbuster, a family, like a smart looking family, you know, came to the counter with Titanic 2. And I was like, oh, it's Titanic 2, okay. And they're like, oh, we love the original. I was like, if I could save you some time, because me being me, I have seen Titanic 2, okay. And I was like, I don't want you guys getting into this thinking it's any kind of attachment to the original. This is a very low budget kind of a sci-fi, you know, channel sort of release. This is not. I don't think this is going to be up your alley. They didn't trust little old me. They didn't trust the guy behind the counter, so they rented this movie. And sure as shit, when they brought it back a couple of days later, I was there. And they were like, I am sorry. I was like, it's okay. We live and we learn. You know, sometimes we have to watch a Titanic 2, you know, to know what we're doing.
Where the fuck does the story go?
I can't even remember, man. It starts off with the Titanic in the middle of a storm, and I think there's like fucking ice walls and shit, if I remember correctly. Like it's insane.
Did Titanic Did Titanic go through a time portal and then ends up back in the iceberg?
Here, I found it. Let me read you the quick synopsis here. On the 100th anniversary of the original voyage, a modern luxury liner christened Titanic 2, seems like a great idea, follows the path of its namesake. But when a tsunami hurls an iceberg into the new ship's path, the passengers and crew must fight to avoid a similar fate. I'm picturing like some sci-fi channel effects with this.
It is 100%. Yeah, that is exactly. Yeah, you got it. Whatever you have pictured in your head is exactly what that movie is.
Well, add to watch list.
Oh God.
Sounds good. Oh, Robert, I think you're muted.
Motherfucker.
There we go.
I'm really excited to talk about our main film tonight. It kind of makes me think of the song that Fountains of Waynewood is saying. Jason's mom has got it going on. Jason's mom has got it going on. Jason, can I come over after school? After school. We can hang around by the pool. Did your mom get back from her business trip? Because I hope she doesn't find you drowned and kill me with an ice pick. Ice pick. Jason's mom has got it going on. We are going to talk about Friday the 13th, the Sean
really good.
Cunningham classic. Thank you. Thank you. I wrote that 5 minutes before we went on the air. I said, how can I introduce this film in a way that hopefully it hasn't been introduced before? And I thought of Stacy.
I think you nailed it.
Thank you.
You nailed it.
Thank you. Hopefully.
Fountains of Wayne finally got one more play on Spotify today.
I know I didn't listen to it. I just went to look up song lyrics. Because I bet you, like the genius of Weird Al, he does not go on Spotify to listen to music. He does it from the heart.
Yeah.
I did it from the heart. So, Matt, if you could read the synopsis of Friday the 13th, the original.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty short one.
Thank God.
We have camp counselors are stalked and murdered by an unknown assailant while trying to reopen a summer camp that was the site of a child's drowning.
A child's drowning and the death of 2 counselors a year later. Because of those 2 dead counselors, the camp was known as Camp Blood from 1958. And this, what, 1980? 81?
That's when it was made, yeah, 1980.
When was it released?
1980.
So 20-some years later, they finally reopened the camp, and they were calling it Camp Blood. I have so many questions. If the townspeople did not like this camp, why did they not tear it down and build condominiums?
Everyone was afraid to go up there, man. You know?
All right. So I'm going to start off by telling you my history of the movie. The first time I saw this was at a sleepover at a former friend of mine named Rich Slobin. At the time, we did not have cable, but there was a precursor to cable in my area called On TV. You had to have these little antennas that would go on your roof, and then when the broadcast channels would cease transmitting at a certain time at night, and they would show movies until like 4 o'clock in the morning. But Friday the 13th was on, and there were a bunch of us sleeping over. And at the time, I had not seen Halloween. This was the first slasher I had ever seen. And the scene where Kevin Bacon gets killed, in my mind, is one of the greatest kills in film history. Then there's the ending, where the girl's in the boat and little kid Jason pops up out of the water, which it would have been a great place to end the movie there, but they decide to make it a dream sequence.
Mm-hmm.
The rest...
Well, I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, you know, because you got the people, you know, like, what boy? We didn't find a boy. So, I mean, I'd take, you know... Go ahead. Maybe I'll just interpret the ending a little bit differently.
They were watching her. They would have seen little Jason pop out of the water.
Go ahead.
Oh, that's it. It was. I thought it was a dream sequence, but I don't know. Compared to a lot of the other movies that came out in and around the time, and to even some of the sequels, this was a very uneven film.
Yeah, I think so. I had always kind of seen them actually on cable. usually right around Halloween time when they would just play them all. Um, and my first experience with Friday the 13th was actually like seeing Jason all the time. And I don't think that I had ever seen this one until much later. I went back and rewatched it, and I was like, oh, this movie sucks. There's no Jason.
I think that's part of the charm of it is,
Yeah.
Much like what I liked about Sleepaway Camp, at least in the first one, the killer wasn't, while the killer was a monster, it wasn't a monster like Michael Myers. This was a real person who had some serious mental issues.
Yeah. Big time.
And it seems like they accidentally came up with the true villain of the franchise at the end of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But my problem with it is, I guess there were too many red herrings of who the killer was, that if they had Mrs. Voorhees in more of the movie, like an introduction of her before she came, I think the reveal would have been a little bit more impactful.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the actress name is Betsy Palmer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was great.
Yep.
She's
Oh,
fantastic.
she is great. And as far as like guessing throughout the film who the killer is, one of the, and this is just my personal thoughts on it, of course, but one thing I love so much about Friday the 13th is I don't really think that there's many people throughout it that you're wondering, like, oh, is it that? Like, the only person we have, I guess, was Crazy Ralph.
Crazy
You could think, like, well, possibly him doing all this, but it's very unrealistic because he's this kind of feeble old man. There is, isn't there a point? I feel like there's one little small angle that leads to the counselor, or not the counselor, I'm sorry, like the guy who's reopening it all, the head guy. There's just one little scene that kind of makes you sort of wonder, like, could it be him? But aside from that,
I was just gonna say, I think they do that kind of thing where, the beginning of the movie he leaves, and you don't see him again until like way later at the diner. So the whole time you're kind of like, whoa.
And also, I think he was driving a similar vehicle to what
he was.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of when I first watched this movie, and I honestly can't remember. But I do have a wonderful story to share with you guys as far as watching this movie theatrically. So COVID had just hit, and this was to the point where like everything was actually starting to shut down, like that level of it. And we found a theater that neither one of us had ever been to, and it was about 45 minutes away. And we seen that they were open, and they were just kind of doing like older films. It was like $5 admission. I think if I remember correctly, you paid like $10 and you got in, and you got a popcorn and a drink.
Damn.
Yeah, so super cheap. and also, just in case anyone is wondering, when we stepped in there, I was wondering the whole time, like, why are theaters shutting down? Because they were like on point. Everyone had on gloves, masks were required, no refills on your popcorn, no refills on your drink, all that shit. I was like, fuck, I can go sit down at a restaurant, shoulder to shoulder with some dumb fuck, but they're still open. Anyway, so when we got here, it was amazing because we pulled in. I don't know if you guys know what was the restaurant called? I can't remember. It's like this old diner that we used to have around here.
Johnny Rockets.
And they shut down. No, not Johnny Rockets, but similar kind of thing. I'll maybe remember the name later. But anyway, we're pulling into the theater and we seen that restaurant. I was like, holy shit, I haven't seen one of those in ages. And then we see the theater, just completely vacant parking lot, this old dilapidated looking building. I'm like, okay. Like I was just kind of taken aback. We got inside, got our concessions, and we're walking through the halls. All the walls were painted black, like intentionally. It wasn't just because, COVID black walls, but, just and they were just looked like they were made of just like fucking plywood. We get into the theater, they have these black trash bags spread out across the seats to separate everything. I say all this because this was the best setting to watch a horror movie in, because it was fucking, it just looked like someone was going to come in there and kill us all with a shotgun. It was fantastic, and I literally, that has been one of my favorite movie going experiences of all time. It was the greatest environment. You know, of course everyone's on edge anyway with what's going on, and it was just us and a guy and his son in the theater. It was fantastic, and it was actually Rachel's first viewing, so she was jumping a lot, which made it awesome. Like, yeah.
So one of my favorite theatrical experiences was seeing Friday the 13th as well in the theater. It was, I talked about it a little bit last week. It was on a double feature with Sleepaway Camp, and I'm pretty sure I talked about this. My buddy Al was there, and this was a theater that you could drink, and they should have probably stopped serving him an hour before the movie started. But in the scene where Jason jumps up, Al screamed like Ned Flanders. And that made his constant talking throughout the movie of how boring it was all worth it. And that I think that's, again, my biggest problem with the film. It's the Kevin Bacon scene. That scene are two just great, great things of cinema. And then Betsy Russell's little monologue, I will say, is a close second. But the rest of the movie just kind of plods along the way. And if you know anything about the making of the movie, they put an ad out, they got investment, and they rushed to get this film done. And it kind of shows. But actually going back to someone who could have been the killer, it could have been the motorcycle cop who comes and visits them. Just to reveal that he wasn't really a cop. He was Jason all along. He survived.
Do you guys have, this is not an issue with the film. This is just seems to be every time I watch it, and I don't know why. I guess I'm kind of openly admitting that I'm kind of stupid when I watch this movie for whatever reason, but it's hard for me to remember that Jason's character had not been established, when this film was made. So, like, in other words, I'll watch it, and I noticed, because I watched the 4K, I scooped that up. Thank you, Matt, for letting us know about the honestly really good damn price through Amazon for that. There is a segment when the guy, who keeps putting the feathers in the hair, kind of like the jokester of them. I can't remember his name exactly.
You mean he's the guy who did the offensive Indian dance and deserved to die?
Yes, I was,
Or his cultural
you knew how to word it better than I could. But when he is starting to walk back into his cabin, and we see, Mrs. Voorhees on the porch, and in the 4K, you can actually, if you pause it right at just the right moment, you can see her. Now, of course, in the movie, we still don't know who that is, but I do have an issue with every time I watch it, I have to remind myself, like, oh yeah, Jason's not even a fucking thing yet. Like, so why do I keep looking for reasons like, oh, it's not Jason, it's someone else? Of course not. He hadn't even been created. Yeah. I just wanted to throw that out there. I didn't know if I was the only one that kind of has a hard time. Like, even though I've seen the film countless times, every time I watch it, I have to remind myself that, like, oh yeah, that was not a thing yet. They were just kind of getting started here.
And even more important is the classic Jason look with the hockey mask isn't even established until the third movie.
Yeah.
I
prefer Sackhead Jason. I thought it was so creepy.
You mean the town that dreaded sundown Jason?
Yeah, I do. Great movie as well, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the first one because it wasn't the traditional type of monster slasher. Didn't have the super killer. It was just a regular woman of flesh and blood. When they probably greenlit the sequel, They're like, we have this creepy kid who lived underwater. Let's do something with that. What could have been interesting is that she was possessed by Jason. And who the fuck was Mr. Voorhees?
Yeah.
At some point, they need to explore that, because if you have a man who creates sadistic spawn like that, Jason has brothers.
Dude, that sounds like it has Rob Zombie written all over it. Incestual shit happens.
There's
Jason
the
was
Fred
born.
Durst. There's the Fred Durst remake we need.
No, I don't think. I still have never seen the 2009 Friday the 13th all the way through. It's the only disc in the box that I haven't been able to bring myself to watch.
Yeah.
I don't really remember it.
I'm the same. I've seen it. It was when I was working at the movie theater. It was just very forgettable for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that as in it's not a good film. I just need to rewatch it.
But it's interesting because that one did star a lot of people who were TV famous at the time. I think Jensen Ackles, who was already on Gilmore Girls, was one of the stars of it.
Yeah.
I mean, this was pre-Supernatural for him, but it was like, all right, we have all the hot stars of the CW on here who want to get killed by Jason because it will be cool. But when you go and look at this film, these were up-and-coming stars, and and the only one who actually made it was Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's just. I think there's something about the original that separates it from the rest of the series, because it feels like it's firm, except for that second to last scene, firmly placed in reality.
Mm-hmm.
There is only one moment in this film that does make me laugh every time, and that is, this is after Mrs. Voorhees has been exposed as the killer, but when her and our main lead actress are kind of like chasing each other around, they're in the cabin, and she like has the pan or pot or whatever, it's like dunk, like it cracks me up every time. But aside from that, I really don't.
That's the third time that she hit her and just ran away without finishing her off.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't know the rules.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So what's interesting, I watched this, I rewatched it today, and I watched it right after I watched Dress to Kill, which, man, every time I watch that, I just forget again. I forget how good it is. And Dress to Kill, you can tell, had a much better director involved with it. While it wasn't a horror film, I can see what keeps these two together, just a regular person doing the killings. And De Palma made the killer Bobby way more intense than Sean Cunningham made Mrs. Voorhees. Mrs. Voorhees was a little bit more creative with her kills, but my heart was racing in the scene with Nancy Allen on the subway and Bobby was chasing her. That was a much more intense scene. And I wish I didn't watch them back to back, because it made me hate Friday the 13th a little bit more than I should have.
One mistake that I think the franchise made, and so this isn't okay. At the end, whenever we have or not the very end, but whenever Mrs. Voorhees is getting killed, it goes slow mo, or Lee's running across the beach there or whatever. Each film after that, for like, I feel like the first three, definitely, I would have to revisit 4 and 5, but they kept using that technique, so you would always know like when the movie was going to end. Essentially, you're like, okay, here's the slow mo. There they go.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I always thought that was a silly decision.
That's the signature move.
Yeah, yeah. Ultra combo.
I've got a question for you guys. Does any part of you think Mrs. Voorhees killed Jason?
No. Jason wasn't a very good swimmer, and because the counselors were having sex instead of watching him swim, he drowned.
Well, why not kill those counselors then? Why wait a year when you're clearly like having conversations with yourself and doing Jason's little boy
I'm
voice?
pretty sure those counselors were the ones that. I mean, they never
No,
said.
they said that was a year later.
Yeah, you know, when I went to a sleepaway camp, it was the same counselors every year.
Maybe.
I get. Well, you know, I've never thought of that angle, Matt. That's cool. That's cool to chew on. But I also
Kind of just
do
seems like,
wonder
you know,
why.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. All I was going to say is it also makes you question, though, just like thinking logical choices that the movie made. The death of a child because of the negligence of the staff should have been enough to shut the camp down to fucking begin with, right?
Well, hold on. It was the 1950s.
Oh, this just happened up the street. It's kids will be kids.
No, you got to think about it. We live. I mean, that was an era where segregation was still a thing.
I'm just thinking she's like, you know, the dad obviously ran out on her. This kid is like, you know, has some sort of severe mutation.
No, the dad moved to Haddonfield and changed his name to Myers.
No, it actually, you know what? I want to see this in a movie now because, yeah, maybe the dad did leave because Jason was not born normal, you know, or something. Maybe he's like, I'm fucking out of here, you know?
I think there's more to the point where, you know, towards the end, she's like, kill them, mommy. And she's like, okay, I will. Like, there seems like something.
How old was Jason?
I don't know if it said.
No, that's why I was asking you guys in the other night when I was watching. I was trying to figure out. I'm like, how old?
I mean, he
was he like supposed to be in the OG, and then
he could have been 7 or 8 years old, and his dad could have gone to Korea and died there. I mean, that's a reasonable explanation just based on his age.
So, the wiki for it states that he was 11.
His dad, way too old to be calling his mom mommy.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something I never noticed, and then when that part came up where she was doing that, I was like, man, that seems like really weird.
I guess I'm just speechless because I've never thought about that angle of it. Maybe it's just because, you know, we've watched it so many times that it's just like, oh, this is what it is. That's extremely interesting that regardless of what happened with the dad, like that she is just mentally broken, you know?
Yeah. But speaking of,
you clearly see. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say something stupid.
All I was going to say is, I mean, you clearly see, you know, Jason's mental issues. You know, whenever he comes in and, you know, she's got the, you know, the headset up and everything, you know, of the mom, and you know, he's clearly like, oh, mom, you know,
right?
Hereditary stuff, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say I thought it was funny that those two counselors at the beginning, like, they're singing Kumbaya 1 second, and then 1 second later they're like, all right, let's go fuck.
Yeah. And you can feel that sexual tension, boy. She's sitting there strumming that guitar, and he's like, He's got those fuck me eyes.
He's thinking, I wish she was strumming my dick.
Yeah.
So
I am. The UHD looks really good on this, by the way. I don't know if that's how you watched it, Robert.
Yeah.
But,
no, I refuse to upgrade.
I wish I was as strong as you. I do.
I watched the Screen Factory uncut disc from the box set, which looked beautiful. I don't need. You know what? If there's a UHD upgrade of the entire series in about 10 years, and if I'm still alive, I'll buy it then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Jason,
I was gonna say the 4K does look like it made the movie look like a much better movie.
just Matt, have you opened up your box set from Screen Factory?
Yeah.
It's on his watch list.
So Jason would have been 34 years old at the time of this movie.
Okay.
He would not have been a little kid, nor would he have been able. So I guess it brings up many questions. Was Jason deformed even back then?
Well, that kind of like makes the like dream scene at the end, like you get that glimpse of him like drowning and it shows him like deformed.
Well, you also get that last scene where they end on the water and you see something breathing underneath.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are we asking ourselves the same question? Is Jason related to Aquaman? I mean,
Yeah, that's where I was going.
if he was able to hold his breath for 20 some years at that point, good for him. He deserves to kill everybody and 2 through Jason Takes Manhattan.
God damn, my boy's got a set of lungs on him. Jesus.
And
Jason Takes
goes,
Manhattan. Good God. What a fucking movie.
you know what? It was better than Jason versus Freddy.
I disagree only because, at a certain point, the series, you can tell that it stops taking itself seriously.
Yeah,
Jason Takes Manhattan, I think, was still them literally attempting to make like a cohesive story and a decent film.
So there was a schism after Jason Takes Manhattan. Sean Cunningham was able to get the rights of Jason, but not Friday the 13th. That's why Jason Goes to Hell, Jason versus Freddy, and Jason X do not have the Friday the 13th moniker anywhere near those films.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah. Nice.
So, which I also find really weird because Sean Cunningham, well, I guess you could say he created Jason, but he did not create Jason. Whoever wrote the second movie created Jason, or that version of him. Ralph and the Motorcycle Cop, I thought, are the 2 greatest characters in this movie.
Crazy Ralph was good.
You're all doomed. You're all doomed.
I love him in 3, Friday the 13th 3, like when he holds the eyeball up in the jar to, we're still doing that, those cheap jokes. I love that.
It was.
But was he, so let's talk about Ralph for a minute. Was he actually a messenger from God? Because, he did warn everyone, and they all fucking died.
I thought he's the town drunk who probably knew.
He is, but he's still... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Did you ever see Cabin in the Woods?
Yes.
He's like the guy at the gas station warning everyone not to go.
Well, sure. Which I always took that as a nod to Crazy Ralph. At least I always thought it was.
See, so here's the thing. I think he would be more at home in the town where the sleepaway camp was, which was truly a bloodbath compared to the 1958 slaying of 2 counselors.
Yeah.
And that was something that really bothered me, is it did not deserve the nickname of Camp Blood. Now, when they return to that area in the sequel, sure, it deserved the name of Camp Blood for whatever Mrs. Voorhees did. But
so like, do you think the film should have just started off with like no backstory to the camp at all. Just guy tries to get it up and going again, and then maybe they find out this heinous stuff happened, or what?
I don't think they needed a flashback at all. I think it could have all been told through backstory. Now, the only reason to do a flashback was to have 2 more kills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they spent enough time talking about what happened, especially since we already saw it.
Yeah. Which, why not just kill that whole crew? I mean, if you're still killing people like 25 years later, every counselor that's there, why not, like, why just those 2?
But it wasn't
Because they
just
were
killing
banging?
people. I mean, she would set the camp on fire. Like, she did not want people there.
Yeah.
She cared about that whatever happened to her son would never happen again to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you love how this film threw in the whole the what is the main guy's name again? Like the guy who's getting it started. I can never remember his character's name. But anyway, he's at the diner caught in the rainstorm waiting to get back to camp. And the waitress is like super smitten by him. And this isn't the only time in the film that we're supposed to believe like, oh, he's the hot 1980s hunk from the movie. And it's just like, what?
Well, we knew he was a hunk because the first time we saw him, he was chopping wood shirtless.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he hit on the counselor. So are these counselors of age? This is harkening back to last week's conversation.
I think they were.
Okay.
His name is Steve Christie.
Steve Christie. Okay.
Yeah, I think they were all of age. They were all of age to play strip Monopoly, which is
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we actually have some nudity in this, so for sure. Yeah.
not as much as in the sequels.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think whenever they were in the writing room, they're like, okay, we need more of that.
Do you guys know if this was the Dead Snake Story movie? Have you ever heard about that?
No.
Oh, this is new to me.
I only say this because I've heard this story before, and I only bring it up because I remember there was like a scene in this movie where they were trying to kill that snake. But there was some horror movie from this time where they had like a snake wrangler on set, and they were doing like take after take because they were supposed to kill a snake, and they were like being super careful, and they like got some takes and were like done, and then something happened on like the last one where they were still rolling, and some accident happened, and the guy like dropped the axe or the knife on the snake and like cut its head off, and the snake wrangler was like super pissed and like caused this big hubbub. And I didn't know if this was this because I mean that snake scene looked pretty real.
Huh. Oh, that was real. Yeah.
So
that was real.
according to the Friday 13th trivia, the scene with the snake was not in the script and was an idea from Tom Savini after experiencing his own cabin during filming. The snake in the scene was real, including its on-screen death.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Okay.
So,
Canceled.
guys, most important question of the night. How many dead Kevin Bacons would you give this movie?
That's
Include your favorite kill if it's not just tied to how many Kevin Bacons you would give it.
Brian, why don't you go first?
well, it's kind of hard because I mean the Kevin Bacon kill is one of my. Okay, I'll say this. Number one, the rating on this one's hard because I love it so much that I automatically want to like give it a 5 or a 4. Or I'm sorry, a 5. But yeah, no, fuck it, I'm going with it. I mean, it's a fucking. How many horror movies really have made that much of an impact? You know what I mean? Like Friday the 13th is fucking huge, and I love it. I adore the film, even though this one doesn't have Jason. I don't know. I think it's great. I love the originality of it. Actually, just being the mom of this kid who had an accident. I do get your all's comments that there is moments that don't really have a whole lot going on. Um, but again, I'm a sucker for the setting. Any kind of camping style movie, I just adore it.
Mhm.
And I honestly think Friday the 13th is genuinely scary at moments. Um, favorite kill, uh, I mean, I was going to say Kevin Bacon, but to elevate that a little bit, I love how, we just see that guy I was talking about earlier with the feathers and the all that good stuff. We just see him walk into the cabin. We don't see him again until, Kevin Bacon and his girlfriend are making love on the bottom bunk of these bunk beds. And the camera
Mhm.
pans up and we just see him laying there, lightning, flashes, and then you see his body. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you know, aftermath shots here, like where you don't really necessarily see the kill itself, like the girl getting shot with the bow and arrow. That stuff was pretty cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah,
So how
You
many?
went with
How
you
many?
went with 5.
You went,
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
going with 5. Yeah.
right. Matt, how about you?
Uh, I'm gonna go similar. Right, like you were kind of saying, I thought there were a couple pacing issues, but I feel like this watch, um, I like really noticed how incredible the score was, and I feel like that score like elevated the slow spots, um, because it like kept things tense the whole time, even when they were like sitting there playing Monopoly. It's you've got that like the strings in the background, like doing their thing. Um, I'm gonna go 4 for that. Um, and it was nice revisiting it. I haven't seen it in a super long time. Favorite death, I think, also is Kevin Bacon. Kind of like how you were saying, it's the only one that you see happen, um, like in the act. But I also really liked. It was kind of just a comment on what you just said. Um, I thought it was funny that in that scene you realized that like Jason Voorhees' mom was just hiding under the bunk bed the whole time while they're banging, just waiting for a chance. um, but I'm always a fan of just like a good like throat slit. I always think that's like a would seem like a terrible terrible way to die. So I'm gonna say like the very first kill of the cook who never made it to the camp.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was also mine because
Was
she had to work at that one.
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Um, I'm going to give it 3 dead Kevin Bacons. And again, I don't know if this is just because I watched it right after Dress to Kill, but the music that De Palma used in that movie was way more intense than the music Sean Cunningham used in
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, it probably is, but it just made it better, I think. Made the movie better.
Well, I mean, it was it started a gigantic franchise. It has the film series has become part of pop culture lexicon.
Mm-hmm.
Though, as we learned in Scream, you associate Jason with this film franchise and not Mrs. Voorhees.
Mm-hmm.
She is a footnote in the history of this film
Yeah.
series.
Would you say that the Friday the 13th movies have the most like recognized theme song out of
No,
the three
I
big?
think Halloween does.
Yeah.
I think Friday the 13th will always stand as the stepbrother of Halloween.
I will say this, speaking on, I guess you can kind of consider it score to a degree, but there's always been that whole thing where a lot of people they think cha 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 whatever with the noise, but it's on the back of that 4K on the slip. I love that they put it because it's like what kill mommy kill or whatever, and they actually
Mm.
have it on the back Kima Kima Kima, where it was just like these layered with reverb vocals and stuff that they were doing for Kill Mommy Kill, I think it was, or Kill Mommy, at least something like that. But I'm pretty sure it was Kill Mommy Kill.
It's amazing that in none of the Friday the 13th movies do you hear the Misfits song, Mommy, can I go out and kill
tonight? Nice. I bet Danzig still wishes that was a thing.
They should have called me.
Yeah.
They used the Ramones in the original Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Nobody's using my music. I created some of the greatest tunes of the 70s and 80s in the 1.5 to 3 minute category.
You know what's sad is you can't find any of that Sam Hain stuff anymore. Like, it's not available anywhere that I can find online. Like, there's some rough uploads on YouTube, but
They don't have them on Spotify?
no. Anyway, I'm sorry. I know that was like completely
Wow. Huh. Hold on.
So do you guys think this franchise is dead? Do you think there's any more of them coming, or are they done?
Within our lifetime, I'm not sure. That is something I thought about. And I mean, to be fair, I honestly think about it quite often with some of the bigger ones. I think that Friday the 13th, in one way or another, will just keep going on, honestly, until the end of time. I mean, I don't see any way, like, years after we're off this planet, that someone's not going to reboot it.
I mean, it's been over a decade.
Yeah.
I know
we have way too many Spider-Man movies in a close amount of time, and not enough Friday the 13th.
But where do you take this franchise? I mean, they took Jason to space and the future in Jason X. They've taken him to hell. They put him in our dreams.
I mean, honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I don't even want to name any directors' names because I don't think any of them would fit that we know now that are modern. But I could see someone in the future taking this and giving more depth to the questions that we've discussed tonight, like giving more backstory to characters, or maybe even completely just disregarding Mrs. Voorhees in general and just starting with Jason. I mean, I could see that happening.
Was she in the reboot?
From what I read briefly.
Okay. Yeah, like, I barely remember that.
You know what? I'm going to have to watch the reboot at some point. You know what?
Yeah, same here.
Why don't we do that for next week? Why don't we watch as painful as it is, we're going to watch the 2009 reboot of Friday the 13th, and we are going to list our 5 favorite remakes.
Oh, it was 3 earlier.
I upped it because we're going to watch something horrible. We are going to
Are we doing just horror or all genres?
Ooh. Let's just stick with horror.
Okay.
Actually, let's do it horror or exploitation.
Okay.
As long as it fits something that could be shown in a grindhouse.
Okay.
All right. So before we go, I want to talk about our friend Steve, who gave up on his mission to watch 100 horror movies this Halloween season.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
When did he do this?
Hours ago. Hours.
Okay. I had no idea.
And my plan was to get through 50, but every time I watch like a modern Severin movie, I regret doing this. So I applaud him for being able to do it last year, but holy crud.
He's done it the last 2 years. The last 2. Why is he giving up? I gotta call Steve. What's happening?
we break fresh news on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. That's so impressive to me that he's able to do that. And I actually love his method of like movies that he has not seen. Now, I totally disagree with his take on Halloween 3.
Yeah, I do
That
too.
proves that,
I do too.
I can't imagine
Yeah.
that.
I
I watched 3 movies.
Doing 100 movies, you mean?
Yeah, I watched 3 movies this week, and it was a struggle to fit them in.
I watched.
Man, I gotta tell.
I was able to
go.
watch. I was able to watch 5 this week, maybe 6. But like, I've been so busy at work, and I'm now trying to figure out what movies are going to be showing in Dismember the Alamo because I do not want to watch duplicate anything, especially over a 2-week time period. So I'm now going through my list and making sure AGFA doesn't have any of them for theatrical distribution.
Okay.
Though I'm pretty sure the movies they're going to show are Reanimator, Behind the Door 2, Possession, and one other. Because they've been spotlighting them on their Instagram page.
Well, I have one to finish after we get off the call tonight. Kino Lorber distributed 1974, The Antichrist. This is a first-time watch for me. Have you guys seen the film?
No.
Nope.
Man, I know I sent a message to the group, but seriously, like, it's a really made film, a really well-made movie. It's Italian. One definite issue that I have with it is it seems that there are just as many Italian actors as there are English-speaking actors in the film. So it's hard to determine whether I should watch it in its original Italian, in original language.
Remember, they didn't record sound. They didn't record sound for these movies. They're all
true.
It's all done post.
Yeah, but it's really good. And as far as like witchcraft, devil worship movies, like it goes there. Like, it goes there. It's insinuated, of course, off film, but there's a part where a woman is tongue punching a goat's butthole. I appreciated the hell out of that.
What's this movie called?
The Antichrist. Yeah, dude. Seriously, I was just like, okay.
In Black Candles, someone gets a sword up their bunghole.
Ooh. Oh, that's okay.
I mean, that's what you get from a movie that could have been written by Satan himself.
I am going to watch one tonight because I only have like a few minutes of that film left. I was getting really tired. But I picked up today Prince of Darkness 4K from Studio Canal, and I've never seen it. So I'm really excited. John Carpenter film that I've never watched. So
nice.
If you want to see something interesting, I don't know if it's still in print, but it's called the Eerie Picture Midnight Horror Show. Code Red put it out, and then whatever the other company, I don't know, I can't remember the other company's name, Dark something.
Dark Force?
Yeah, they put it out on a double feature disc.
What's that called? I'm sorry?
The Eerie Midnight Picture Show.
Okay. There was a couple that go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think they called it that to try to get people to think it's like Rocky Horror, but it's a sleazy satanic possession movie.
Okay, nice. Yeah, there were a couple that caught my eye today that were released from a Massacre video, so I didn't know they had all these coming out, but Black Devil Doll from Hell has a DVD release, and another one.
I bought that years ago on a double feature with Tales from the Quatrain Zone or whatever it's called.
Okay.
Black Devil.
Well, I'm going to scoop it up eventually. But.
Black. It's a fun, stupid, low budget movie.
SOV movie. Yeah, I've seen stuff about it for years. I've never seen it, so I was excited to see that get a release.
I learned something horrifying today, that one of the makers of the movie Things is a Trump supporter.
It's probably the fucking director, right?
Yeah.
I told you guys about my conversation with him, right?
No.
So Barry J. Gillis. I was doing a YouTube channel back in the day, and we interviewed him about his film Wicked World. It was about an hour and a half, 2 hour long interview. Well, I posted something online, anti-Trump, and he commented on it saying, I think if I recall correctly, he called me a liberal dum-dum. And yeah, I mean, he went fucking crazy on me. And I was like, wow. And for some reason, it really hurt me because I was like, I like your movies, but honestly, after a time, he deleted me immediately. After time, I started thinking about, some of the things even in that film, Wicked World. It's very apparent that he's just a racist Canadian piece of shit. So, fuck you, Barry J. Gillis, if you ever watch this.
And you know what? Let's end it on that. We'll see you next week as we discuss our 5 favorite remakes, and God help us watching the remake of Friday the 13th, 2009.
Nice.
Which I will be surprised if any of us rated as high as how we rated the original. And if you liked what you saw, please hit subscribe, comment, and again, if we get to a certain number of subscribers, I will be singing a song from Champagne and Bullets.
We're like 3 away, right?
We've been 3 away for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
here's the thing: we have to maintain that.
Button.
Just hit subscribe.
It almost seems like people don't want to hear you sing.
You know what? If that's the case, if we make it to 50, I won't sing it. If that's what you want, just say in the comments, no, Robert, don't. Don't, Robert, don't. All right, we'll be back next week with another fresh edition. Yay us.
Yay.